Good morning, everyone. Today, we're going to speak about Scrum ceremonies. In other words, Scrum activities or also Scrum meetings. So it's the same. Activities, meetings, and events. I would like to share with you the progress of the class. So this topic, let me just take my pen here. It's going to be part of the week number 5. You see? So we are recording one session for both classes, which is one video. The good news is that the duration of this video, it's less than 1 hour, which is great. We are saving time and optimizing the training and the experience. So what are the topics of this module, Scrum Activities? Topics are nature of Scrum events, purpose of the definition of done. What is the purpose of the definition of done, DOD? Time box concept, running on a sprint, sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review, sprint retrospective, and this is a sprint activity, but it's not part of the 5 time box activities. So product backlog grouping. So what is the nature of Scrum events? The sprint, each Scrum project is a set of sprints. Another name for sprints is iterations. Iteration, which is this one. Normal duration is 2 to 4 weeks. 2 to 4 weeks, no 1, 2 to 4 weeks for the exam. A sprint is a container for the 4 other events. Development effort and maintenance of the product backlog. These are the activities that we normally do in a sprint. So remember the 5 ceremonies or activities, are number 1, sprint. Number 2, sprint planning. Sprint planning. Number 3, it's daily Scrum. You don't need to put it in this order, but I love to put numbers. Daily Scrum, number 4. Number 1 is sprint, number 2 is sprint planning. Number 3, daily Scrum. Number 4, sprint review. So what is the other name that for this meeting, for this event? Anyone? There's another name that you can call this type of meetings. Thank you so much. Yay, sprint demo. Sprint demo. And the last one, the number 5, this is an S. The number 5 is the retro. Sprint retrospective. All right, so sprint planning. Let me move forward. Sprint planning is the first event in the sprint. You see, sprint planning, first event. Scrum team plans the items they're going to deliver in the sprint. The Scrum team plans the way they will deliver them. So they are autonomy. We are autonomy. The team autonomy. That's why it's Scrum. So the team make a decision about what to do, how to do it, and who's gonna do it from the team. So the daily Scrum, talking about the nature of the Scrum events, The development team starts working as soon as the sprint planning is completed. The development team hosts a daily meeting, here the daily Scrum, 50 minutes duration to coordinate the work for the next 24 hours. There's 3 questions that we normally do in this meeting. Number 1, what did you do yesterday? What did you do yesterday? Yesterday, in order to achieve the sprint goal, right? Number 2, what are you going to do today? What are you going to do today, right? And number 3, any impediments or blockers? Impediments. Those are the 3 questions. Any impediments or blockers? The sprint review, the development team demonstrates, that's why we can call this meeting as a demo also. They demonstrates the outcome of the sprint to the customer. So here's the increment. This is the team, stakeholders, customers, investors, executive. Sprint review, right? Customer provides feedback to the development team. Boom, here. This meeting or this event is also known as sprint demo. Okay, sprint retro. After sprint review and before the sprint is over, we conduct the sprint retrospective, where the development team hosts an internal meeting to review the sprint. It's internal meeting. What is the objective of this meeting? It's understand what went well, what went not so well, and how we can improve next time. So it's just about improvement. We are looking to improve people, processes, and products. The goal is to improve the process, lessons learned in the next sprint. This meeting is a sprint retrospective. This one. What is the purpose of the definition of done? The main objective of the definition of done is create transparency. Remember the 3 pillars of Scrum. Number 1, number 2, and number 3. Number 1 is transparency. Number 2 is inspection. And number 3 is adaptation. Those are the 3 pillars of Scrum. So the definition of done defines the requirements for increment to be releasable. For the class that I prepare for you to share with you tomorrow, which is Monday, I will be talking about the definition of done and some of the examples. Okay. So what else? The definition of done guides the team in forecasting at the sprint planning. Yes, forecasting is projection of the duration of the project. Because based on the requirements of the definition of done, I need to estimate the work duration for the team. And at the same time, we can estimate the final calendar completion of the project. So also, when we're talking about definition of done, we need to think about non-functional requirements. Those architecture and infrastructure concerns. Those requirements are added to the product backlog, and we need to execute or implement or create those items in early sprints, or accomplish is the better. While always requiring at least some business functionality. Implemented along with functional development of the product. And remember that I told you in person that this is all about technical stuff. Security, uptime, non-functional requirements should be added to the product backlog and DoD. What is that? Those are, as I mentioned, like technical characteristics of the solution, software application. It's not the same, the functional, like make an invoice, be able to make a register online. Like another functional will be like make a payment, that I'm be able to make a payment. Those are functions of the software application. But in this case, non-functional or technical requirements based on architecture and infrastructure concerns. You see, this is all about these terminologies, NFRs. It could be part of the definition of time. What is time box concept? Time boxed is a fixed period of time. Freeze the target and work with full focus on certain tasks or objectives. So what is the idea of this one? That the sprint duration is fixed, 2 to 4 weeks. The sprint planning, 8 hours. The daily scrum, 15 minutes. This is hours. This is 15 minutes, the daily scrum. The sprint review is 4 hours. And the sprint retrospective, equal 3 hours. So there's no way for us to change the duration. Why? Because they're fixed, they're time box, fixed time period, fixed time box concept. So the duration of a time box should be agreed upon and fixed. So do not change this. Free to change the duration based on lessons learned, but not frequently. So never mind this one. I think for the exam it's not recommended to change the duration of the ceremonies of Scrum. So this is a representation of a sprint. Sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review, sprint retrospective, and go back. Next, sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review, sprint retrospective. This one, this cycle here is the sprint. This one, bloop, bloop, bloop. This oval here. Okay, sprint details. Increment increases after each sprint. Customers usually request changes during the sprint review. That's why we need to have a conversation with the stakeholders, and they need to provide feedback to us so we can fix and improve the process, the product, and also the people, everything. But in the sprint review it's just focus on the solution. On the sprint retrospective, is to review the process and the people. So don't get confused. Sprint review is just to receive feedback from stakeholders. That's it. That's much better and clear. So the sprint backlog does not change once the sprint is started. So sprint backlog cannot change once the sprint is started. So it's like a frozen sprint backlog. Remember, the sprint backlog is a subset, small subset. Sprint backlog is a subset of the product backlog, PB. You see, this is big and this is a small sprint backlog. Sprint goal should not change. Each user story in the product backlog should normally be developed in a single sprint. That is good to know. So the product owner and the development team select the items from the top of the prioritized product backlog. So who is responsible to keep the product backlog updated and prioritized? Who is responsible? Thank you. I'm listening. The product owner. So we must agree on a definition of done at the beginning of the project. And we know that we're experts in the definition of done. So the springtime boxes, it's 2 to 4 weeks. You see, here's 1 to 4. Forget about it. It's 2 to 4. You see here, 2 to 4 weeks, the sprint duration. So the sprints are no more than 1 calendar month. You see, 2 to 4. We need to avoid very short sprints. And also this is because we need to avoid the splitting, the breaking down a single item among several sprints. That is a good practice. Okay, the product owner is the only person in the Scrum team that has the authority to cancel the sprint. Is that possible, let's say? Yes, thank you for asking. Sometimes the sprint goal becomes obsolete or is not relevant anymore for the business, for the industry, for the organization, for the government, you name it. So the only person with the authority to cancel the sprint, any sprint, is the product backlog. So the sprint planning is the first action in the sprint. First action in the sprint is the sprint planning. It's a time box meeting. It's a time box fixed to 8 hours from 1 month. Sprint. All 3 roles should attend this meeting. And we need to determine in that meeting the capacity of work. Remember the capacity? Team capacity is measured in terms of story points. How many story points we can deliver in one sprint? Story points. So on the sprint planning, what we do is we plan the sprint backlog, right? What is the sprint backlog? It's a subset. Sprint backlog is a subset of the product backlog. Product backlog, sprint backlog. This is an example of a sprint goal. We are going to create the basic functions of the restaurant finder application so that the application can begin to be used by customers. This is just an example of the sprint goal. So detailed plan is breakdown of a product backlog item into detailed tasks. That's a very important piece of information here. We have the product backlog here. And we have the user stories. Or product backlog item. So now that we have this level of detail, we need to break down into tasks. Those are more granular, smaller pieces, tasks. Each task might have estimates, dependencies, and similar information for tracking. For that, we can use a Kanban board. Kanban board, it's a highly visible information radiator. And I have an example tomorrow. I'm going to show you the Anata mirror board with the beautiful information for you to see. So we said that the Kanban columns is to do, doing, and done. This is another example of the sprint goal, to make the purchasing part of the website mature enough to be able to handle the process and users can experience a full purchasing process. This is another example. So you don't need to memorize anything. This is just an example of a sprint goal. So then we create the post-its are created by breaking down each user story. You're gonna see the example. Tasks define what the development team will do. You see tasks, user stories, right? Or product backlog items, and then tasks, different levels of details, tasks. Some tasks are created in the sprint planning meeting and others throughout the sprint. Okay, so that is okay. If you don't finish during the sprint planning, you can do it throughout the life cycle. So the sprint backlog consists of sprint goal, selected items from the product backlog, and the detailed plan for turning stories into done increment of the product. This is the definition. This is an example of the Kanban board: to do, doing, and done. So as you can see, this example is very general because here we're supposed to see tasks, smaller tasks, but it's not clear in this chart. But at least it's a good example for the first level of information. Kanban board. You see, Scrum is transparency. It's about transparency. This is the only way that you can provide transparency of the project progress to all stakeholders and Scrum team. So the daily Scrum is just 15 minutes for the development team to inspect the work. We synchronize the work and plan for the next 24 hours. We know that. We're expert level. These are the 3 questions. We have a expert level of knowledge in daily Scrum. Sprint review, 4 hours. We said that. For 1 month sprint, the Scrum team and other stakeholders. You see in this one, the sprint review, we do the demo to the stakeholders, and we need to collect what? Collecting what? Feedback and change requests. So the sprint retro, which is the last meeting of the sprint, the time box duration is 3 hours. Okay, just the sprint review, and before the end of the sprint, we have another meeting just to improve the processes. This is the learning lessons, and it's a sprint retrospective. I love that. Normally required but optional. If product owner and Scrum Master and development team agree. I don't agree with that, but this is something that you may know. You may see for the exam. You need to keep that in mind. So the sprint retrospective, always look for ways to improve. Regardless how little there should be an improvement, the most important thing in the sprint retrospective is that you can add some of those improvements into the next sprint backlog. So you can have a list of 10 different improvements. So there's not excuse for you to say, no, this is too much work for me to do it. No. You can take only one improvement, and one by one, little by little, you will be adding an improvement to what? To the sprint backlog for the next sprint. So participants review or inspect the sprint, right? Participants review the sprint. We review or inspect the people, the relationships, the processes and tools, and identify ways of improvement. So you see, it's not only one thing. We need to check people, processes, product, tools, you name it. And the backlog grooming is not a Scrum activity. It's not one of the 5 events, but it's something that we need to do as much as possible. It's all about reviewing and revising the product backlog items. We can add details, creating estimates, and auditing the prioritizing the items. The product owner is responsible for prioritizing. However, the development team is responsible for estimating. What is the unit to measure the items in the product backlog? Story points. Story points. Story points. So what is the difference between a grooming and the 5 Scrum events? Thank you for asking. Scrum events are time boxed. What is that, let's say? Okay. Anyone, any volunteer, what is a time box concept? I'm listening, O'Neill. I'm listening, Henry. I'm listening, Joseph. I'm listening, Cindy. I'm listening, Kimberly. I'm listening, Lizzie. So time box is that the period of time is fixed. Fixed. Grooming is an ongoing activity, so it's not a time boxed. Grooming should not consume more than 10% of the development team's time. And this is the end of the Scrum activities. Key takeaways. The purpose of the DoD, which is the definition of done, it creates transparency. Architecture and infrastructure concerns are added to the product backlog, and the name of this is non-functional requirements. Time boxed, it's a fixed period. A sprint is a container for the 4 other events, right? What are the events? Sprint and sprint planning, sprint demo, and a sprint retrospect. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you next time. Bye.